Hello everyone, thanks for pressing play. In this video we're looking at this car here. This is a 2016 and it's a Honda Civic and it's what's called an SI version. This particular car is a diesel version as well of the SI, and in this video we're going to be examining features that are really nice on this car on the outside of the car, and then we're going to have a look as well on the inside of the car, and we're going to go for a drive in the car as well. So by the end of the video you will understand exactly what's in this SI version. Just before we get started, we are Fitzpatrick's Garage, a family run business in operation for 70 years. So if you're buying a car like this from a garage like us, you know there's going to be good after sale service. Brian's my name. If there's any information you want on this particular car, 086 843 1945. Call, text, WhatsApp, whatever suits, and I'll be happy to run through information on the car, information on getting rid of your, trading in your own car even, or financing or anything like that. These SIs are cool. I really like this version of the car. So in 2015 there was a facelift done in this car, and the SI was the most aggressive version that came out in all the specs that were available. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by going for a drive in the car, and then we'll get back to looking around the outside of the car because it's damn cool looking. Anywho, let's get going for a drive. So let's see how it accelerates. 0 to 120 joining the motorway. This is a 1.6 diesel engine, 120 horsepower, but more crucially 300 newton meters of torque. So it's a real punchy engine. It's quite an enjoyable car to drive all the way up to the red line. Doesn't feel like you're being hard on the car at all. We've sold a lot of different 1.6 diesel cars between different brands over the last few years in the garage. This one definitely feels like the punchiest, I suppose. It feels like the torquiest of all the 1.6 diesel engines that we've sold so far. Again, I've never had anyone come drive one of these and be disappointed in terms of the level of power that's in the car for a diesel engine. Some of the interesting features in the car, you got this econ button here, so you can see when you press it, the iMid changes where it says econ on. The two green lights when I floor the car, you see the way turning blue, and that's just a visual aid just to warn you that you're driving a little bit too hard. And the other thing as well that's handy is it's got a gear shift indicator, so if I went back into say fourth gear at the moment, the car would think, 100 kilometers an hour, you really want to be in sixth, so it's going to indicate for you to shift up a gear. In this case I need to go up as far as sixth. That eco function is going to reduce how aggressive this cruise control and this air conditioner is as well, all in favour again of fuel efficiency. In terms of the way the cab's laid out then, electrics for windows are on the driver's side over here on this panel, and then you got electrics for mirrors as well. Cruise control is also going to be standard on the car as well, so you got this little button here, and you can see when you press that button there's a little clock symbol that comes up on the dash a little bit up higher beside the speedo. And once you have seen that enabled, then you can set your speed. It'll tell you what it's set at, and that means now you can take your foot off the pedal and it'll maintain the speed for you. The other thing it's going to have as well is a speed limiter, so in the same area using the same control I can hit a speed limiter, then I can set my speed, and that means in this case I've set it for just over 100 kilometers an hour, so the car won't exceed it until I really depress the accelerator, and then it will alright. Up on the steering wheel then, you got this little button here which controls an iMid. An iMid is going to give you information, so clock, it's going to tell you about radio stations, it's going to tell you about fuel efficiency, and it's going to tell you any warnings and things like that as well. And the buttons in the same area will allow you to control volume on the radio. Heating controls down low, and there's also a high mounted display as well. So things like obviously speeding up and slowing down the fan, you can have different temperatures in each side of the car. You've also got a rear demister and also a front demister, and there's also wing mirrors demisters as well. Over in centre then you got a Honda Connect setup. So the first thing is we can control from the steering wheel, but we can also control from the radio. So you got touch and swipe functions. So things like, we'll say the volume over here, I press that and then it allows me to access the volume by touching and swiping into the audio tab on it. And within the audio tab then it's going to bring up things like, we'll say, a station list, which again, touch and swipe, it's going to give me a complete list of stations that are available once I go into something like, we'll say, FM. I can also control the source from the steering wheel like what we were doing there. So in fairness, that's actually pretty easy to use. It's pretty straightforward once you've been shown once, I think. And the other tabs then, they were going to relate to things like phone. You're also going to have general settings overall. And once you go into settings, you can pretty much control most of the settings in the car from that screen and through there. And there's even things like an internet browser as well, but unfortunately at the moment you cannot use it because the handbrake is actually depressed. Which means yes, you can use it when you pull up, and I'm sure there's probably a way to get around it, but we just officially can't tell you how to do it, but just Google it. Anyway, let's get back to looking on the outside of the car. So things I really like on these cars, I love these headlights. See the way you've got this big daytime running light, which is also your parking light, projector headlight in through here, full light in through there as well, fog light down through here, and a parking sensor at the front as well. The other thing as well that's unique on an SI is normally Civics had this sporty style grille, but they had slats going along the bottom. The difference with an SI is you have that honeycomb finish, but it's also all the way along the bottom grills as well. A couple of other things on the SI then was most Civics have a black spoiler, whereas this one, as you can see, is colour coded like the car. The other thing as well is the SI obviously has a nice SI badge, but one of the most significant features on these is those wheels. So lots and lots of wheels these days are a diamond cut finish, so they have this kind of shiny reflective finish, but I find they change colour depending on the type of sunlight. These are a gloss black finish, which is a little bit more seldom on cars these days, but what I find is they always look black, and it's a really dark black as well. And that leads me into the next point. If you look at the black nose on the car, and then you look at the black wheel on the car, same on the back, and then you have that black privacy glass. Privacy glass is also unique to the SI on the two rear windows and also the actual rear window up the middle. So all in all, if you look, there's more black along the back of the car as well. So there's no chrome. The car is basically black and grey. I think that just really comes together very, very nicely. And the colour of this car is what's called a polished metal. So the SI was always a very, I suppose it's a more sporty, aggressive look, but out of all the colours that were available, like things like black and blue and white and red, this was the more reserved colour. I actually think it's a little bit more of a classy finish in that polished metal grey colour. For want of a better phrase, I just think it's a little bit more maybe upmarket looking rather than a sporty, aggressive look. The other thing is, if you look at the rear of the car as well, then it has parking sensors along the back. This is a really aggressive diffuser that's along the back of the car. The spoiler comes out on the rear of these, and like we said, it's colour coded obviously as well. But the spoiler is obviously shaped as well in a way that gets air to come off the back of the car in the most aerodynamic way possible. And one thing about these Civics as well is the bottom is really flat underneath. And again, that's no accident. The whole idea of the car with the shape is to try and get air off the car in the most aerodynamic way possible. These are super, super economical. These cars all day long, 60 miles per gallon. And if you're nice to the car, 70 miles per gallon is actually achievable. Other nice little things that sometimes people don't cop onto, these Civics, when they came out first, they didn't have these. And then from 2016, they did little mouldings along through there along the bottom. And again, they just make the car a little bit more sharp looking down around the bottom. And I really like the taillights on this car as well. They're a solid LED. Previous models before that had independent kind of LEDs along the back, but I just like the way that's a more consistent shape. It's a cool looking car, this is. And even one other feature, see these here? They're on both sides of the rear, and again they are for channeling airflow in a really precise manner. So that is the level of nerdiness they've gone to on this car. I like what we talked about earlier on when we were driving the car, that engine as well. So it's a super frugal vehicle, but to be fair, it can be practical as well. So the boot is quite good in these cars. And this car actually, I must say, hasn't been cleaned yet, so this is exactly how the car came in. But if we want, we can actually drop the boot really, really deep, and you end up with a larger area. The rear seats in the car fold down really, really flat. So it just means you end up with a load area that's basically comparable to a light commercial vehicle. In through there then, little light in through here as well for night time. And the seats actually have another couple of neat tricks. So if I lift this back up, I can then do what's called a magic function. So I can lift the bottom part where your bum would normally sit, lock that in place, and then I can do that on both sides, and you end up with a tall mode. So again, just caters for anything that's kind of awkward in terms of transportation. In terms of the rear of the car, you got 3 head restraints, you got 3 3-point safety belts. The interior is in very, very nice condition on this car as well. And then there's some nice stitching along the doors, more padding along through there, an electric window in through here with a child lock, and the rear door then has a child lock in through here, and these are brushed aluminium door handles then as well. And in terms of the size of the car in the rear, so if I'm sitting in the back of the car, the privacy glass by the way is brilliant. It looks cool, but it actually does stop the sunlight coming in on top of young kids, and you only realise that when you have young kids, it actually makes a big difference. So I've got good leg room, and then at 6 foot I've decent headroom along through here as well. And because this is an SI model as well, this roof is completely black. So normally it's more of a grey colour on the non-SI model. So black is just sporty. For safety then, I'm going to have some steel bars for side impact protection, and then the curtain airbags are going to start into the front of the vehicle along through there. And those airbags will continue all the way down the side along through there. And again, more steel bars for side impact protection. Passenger over here is going to have a front airbag. I'm going to have a double stage airbag depending on how close I sit to the passenger seat. And the side of my seat is going to have an airbag as well. And actually one thing I forgot as well, for young kids there is ISOFIX points in the rear of the car too. It's one of things like anti-lock brakes, as you'd expect, emergency brake distribution, emergency brake assist. To summarise, what happens with those things, if you slam in the brakes it won't lock up, and if the wheels get onto an area like a grass verge where they're losing traction, it'll move around braking pressure to compensate. And it's also got a city brake function, so if someone stops in front of you under 32 kilometers an hour, if you haven't touched any of the pedals, the car is going to try and stop you from hitting the back of that vehicle in front. Like we saw already, the Hon Connect setup is in through here, but what we couldn't see while we were driving then, when we go for reverse, we're also going to get a camera in through there. It's got dynamic guidelines to tell us what direction we're moving, and then as we saw already, we have parking sensors front and rear. So in this case, when I back up towards the object, it's going to make a lot of noise, and it's giving me a warning up in the eye mid up through here as well. Or similarly then, if I drive forward, say over towards this corner here, I'm going to get a warning down in the eye mid as well to tell me I've gone too close to that object as well. Anyway, there you have it. That is our 2016 Honda Civic Si 1.6 diesel. If you want any information on the car, 086 843 1945. And if you've been watching on YouTube and you think the video is useful, please do like and subscribe. Hopefully the video is useful and hopefully the car is of interest. And thanks a million for watching.